more than message bearers. We carry the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the mankind. And so we must be very clear in articulating the message. You must be very clear in making people understand exactly what we're trying to invite them toward. And if we're not clear, then it's not the person's fault who rejects our message. Right? The second thing is, when we deliver our message, it can't be flat. It can't be something that is just a simple, hello, how are you, and then keep on going. Formality. There has to be something in it that is very critical to make the other person feel this is a message I need to pay attention to. It's an important message. And for that nowadays, you know, I think most of us know these sports seasons, they come and go, one stops, another one starts, and you see in the sports fan this passion. Why do we call that person a sports fan? What does the word fan mean? Where does it come from?
He agree with the team or whatever's going on.
Who's got the mic? I don't see a mic. My mic man isn't a fan right now. What we're doing? Okay. Yes. What does the word fan come from?
To be part of something and to agree on it. Yeah, to be part of whatever he's talking about. It might be sports, it may be just people in general, it might be politics, it may be family, whatever. And you got to be a person to believe in that particular, whatever is happening, you have to be part of.
So you got a person that has a deep belief in something. What else? Yeah. Someone else add to the word fan. What does fan mean? You hear it all the time. What does it mean?
I think it needs to be a fanatic.
Fanatic. Okay.
Yes.
Fanatic. So, yes. Throw in the back there. The word fan. You hear it all the time.
Strong supporter of something.
Strong supporter of something. What else? That's enough?
Follower.
A follower? Got to pass the mic over. Quick.
I'd say someone that admires the person's, whatever contribution he has given or whatever activity that he is outstanding in.
Okay. Admiration, appreciation. Person who's zealous, who's a fan.
Assalamu alaikum. So, as you mentioned, he moves on from a season to another season, or one sports to another. So maybe you're referring to the way wings of a fan, they swing around, that could be a fan, from one sport to another sport. He keeps hopping along.
Okay, all right, okay. All right. If you look in the dictionaries, we know what the meaning fanatic is, basically. Fanatic. If you're a fanatic about something, if someone says you're a fanatic, is that a positive or negative? It could be a negative. It could be a positive. It could mean that you have been so impressed with something, you're prepared to give it all your focus, all your intensity, all your time, energy, your mind, your heart, your soul. You know what? That sounds like a believer to me. And the word fanatic also in the root comes from one who has a great love for God. Surprisingly enough, a deity. So it's linked to the idea of faith, in fact. In one of its root words, it's linked to the idea of faith. And this means this means that fanaticism has some link to religion. And that's what I want us to look at. A sports fan. Nowadays, there's professional basketball playoffs going on, right? And if you watch the fans sitting in the arena observing the match, they're uniform in many cases in the things they wear. They're uniform in some t-shirts or shirts they'll wear, all team color. They'll have a certain slogan that everyone has on. Again, very similar. And they'll all pour out energy, amazing energy, toward that team which they're fanatic about. If the team wins, they're in heaven. The team loses, they're in a sort of hell. They're miserable. You know, the next days or whatever, they're just in such torment. I mean, torment. Their whole life is upside down. That's a fan. But God, if this team should win, they're in heaven. I mean, they're walking around on cloud nine, as they say, floating across the room, smiling, just so effusive and beautiful. This is a fan. And it shows a passion, a devotion to a cause, to a individual, an entity, a team, whatever it could be. And this, in terms of religion, is called zealousy, a zealot. Back in the day of Jesus Christ, alayhi salam, Hazrat Isa, there was a group of Israelites who were called zealots. Zealot. That's where we got our word from. This is a group of those who were just fired. They're like Al-Qaeda, Taliban. They're just full of this energy that we're going to conquer the world. And we're going to conquer the way we believe militarily. So these zealots wouldn't take anything else as an option. They said, our way or this highway, our way or no way. We know the way to bring about God's kingdom is to destroy these people. And don't come in front of me with peace and love and prayer and patience. I don't want to hear that. Bring out your weapons, let's go and fight. So this was the zealot. This was passion. And it is also true that without passion, you're just dead. If you go into an arena and you're the team and your fans show up 20,000 strong and sit there quiet and staring at you, not a good feeling. You want the fans to rise up. You want them to be on the edge of their seats. You want them to scream at the top of their lungs. You want them to show anger or whatever it is during the course of that roller coaster ride of a game to bring out the best of the player. And if they don't do that, the team's energy, as they say, the wind gets sucked out of the air. The team gets affected by the failure of the fan to come out and be a fan. It's also true in religion. If we don't bring passion to our religion's practices and preaching suffers and fails to affect the person we're trying to influence. You can see it. This person is not a real fan. This person doesn't have any passion, devotion, connection. It's mentioned that once the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was standing and he was delivering a sermon on Tawheed, on unity of God. And the companion said he was speaking with such passion, such emotion, that the platform he stood on crashed. We're not saying he was frenzied. He wasn't jumping up and down. He wasn't becoming wild and unruly. But he was speaking with a firm passion about something he truly believed in heart and soul. And it just came out. And everyone felt it. And that physical environment was influenced by it. And this is the difference between someone who truly loves something heart and soul. Because we say, I love God, all my heart, all my mind, all my strength. That's what we say, right? And I've seen people who love something with all their heart, their mind, and their strength. They're called fanatics or fans. I've seen them in sports arenas. I've seen them in following Hollywood stars, political stars, and they become crazy. Nowadays, it's election season. Look at these people. The passion they bring into all of those rallies for their potential candidate. It's passion. It's amazing. And we all witnessed it, that this is someone who brings heart, mind, and strength and soul to whatever it is. So now what I'm saying is, if we don't have this spirit, this passion, then part of us is missing an element of being true to what we say we love heart and soul. So we got to find that passion. Just like a fanatic got to find a passion. Don't show up. Show up with passion. Speak with this deep love. The messenger of God, when he would speak, they said his face would light up. His features would glow. You could just feel the energy when he talked about God. It was so much so they said he's a madman. Because all he does is talk about God. That's all he wants to talk about is God, 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 wherever he goes. A madman. And you know, people that love someone or love something, this is how they are. He said they can't stop talking about their team or the person they love or whatever it is. This person's obsessed with it. The messenger of God was obsessed with Tawheed, with the oneness of God. And wherever he went around, that's all he wanted to talk to his people about because they didn't understand God. This is what influenced his society. So Tabligh is first about getting this inner spirit of passion, of love, of devotion, and then bringing it forward. So this is just an opening observation. And one exercise I said we can do to improve this was every night do what? Before we sleep. Every night recite Surah Ikhlas, chapter number 112. If you have been reading it, you know the chapter number. What does this chapter say in very short words? Anybody? You've been reading it now for 1 week. You shouldn't have to read it again. You should know by now what this chapter is. If we followed the plan and the style of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And he said every night before he went to bed, he read this chapter. Very short chapter. Not the Arabic, because some of us don't understand Arabic. I said, in essence, what is it saying? Last week we went to the first half of it. Where's our mics?
Allah is one and he's not created.
Allah is one, he's not created. Anybody else? As you've been reading and reflecting on this surah, what does it tell you so far? Anyone else? Grab the mic. Share some thoughts.
Allah is one.
I think it takes you into the area of, as he was saying, one, and the total uniqueness of Allah Ta'ala. There is nothing like Allah Ta'ala. There never has been, there never will be. He is absolutely the one.
One. Okay. Anybody else? Take this mic around.
Allah is one. He begets not, nor is he begotten, and there's none unlike to him.
That's a good translation. Now what does it mean to you?
Meaning, there's no being like Almighty Allah, and he's basically he's a unique being.
Okay, now see,
Yeah.
here's going to come. I said when we're going to speak about something that we love, heart and soul, we're going to speak with passion, we're going to speak with clarity, and we're going to speak in a way the person who's listening to me knows this is something I truly love, and this is why. That's what I want to hear coming out of your mouths. And somebody else.
And also that he's...
You're good. I'm not talking. I'm just saying in general.
Well, what I mean is he doesn't have any child. He didn't give birth to anyone, and no one gave birth to him.
I love your
He's
passion.
a
You want to give that mic up. I love that passion. But we got to pass it on now. Come on.
A creator never gets created.
The creator never gets created. Okay.
And that's what, my answer to my question was last week. So
You're constantly thinking about that, huh?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Come on. Faraz, what do you see when you've been thinking about this surah, this chapter, these words? What's coming to your mind and heart? What are you going to express to somebody who asks you about it? Right here, over here. Hang on.
That's my passion. I'm gonna find you. Assalamu alaikum. He's the beginning and the end. There's none before him and there's none after him. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, that's all. Anybody else? Come on.
He is independent of all, and all are dependent upon him. And one of the things that you were speaking to kind of speaks to me, because I mean when we're trying to deliver what we say, and you're saying, you're using Surah Ikhlas, and that Allah is one, it gives you a real platform, or, you know, a thought, because, a connection, because what happens is we're trying to explain to people that we're all connected. We're all in this, it's one creator, and it's just one creator. So this verse starts the process of allowing us to be able to share that concept, but to grab hold of it and to be able to say, present it. It's like you yourself have to believe as you look around and you experience life and you realize the oneness of life, and then this verse begins to manifest with yourself. So as you engage the verse itself on a consistent basis, you said last week, and I think this is one of the things that we have to do, is you got to, now this week for me, I had to like really embrace Kuhu Allahu Ahad. It's a brother that comes here in the morning sometimes, and
we're going to need short answers.
He says this all the time. I'm going to close right now. Yeah, but he was saying this one verse over and over. I'm speaking with package. And he would say this one verse over and over. And I was wondering why would he say this verse, but last week it made it relevant.
Pass it behind, young man behind you. When you've been thinking about this surah and these verses, what come to your mind? What are you going to share with somebody?
You can only worship one God, and that's the Creator.
Worshiping one God, all right? Anybody else we missed? Young man way in the back, come on up forward. You can't sit way back there. There you go.
There is one God and no God other, no God, no other being like Him.
No other being is like this one God. How do you know that?
Well,
how are you going to explain that to me? God says in the Holy Scripture called Bible, or let's say the Torah, that man has been created in the image of God. You ever read that? And he just said there's no other being like him. So explain this to me. There's no other being like me. But I've read where God said man has been created in his image. Interesting. We got a preacher up here from way back. He's going to share a few thoughts on this. When God says, nothing is like me, yet I created man in my image, what's the difference? How is that not confusing?
The part that the part of God you cannot see, you know, because you know God is unseen, but you can feel Him, because you can feel Him in your heart. That's how He comes to you. That's how you begin to understand, you know, the essence of everything about His creation and Him. You know, because there's none like that feeling. There's none like Him. There's nothing that can be done without His will. Nothing. We don't even move. We can't do anything without His will. So everything depends on Him. So that part of image of Him is that attributes that we have and that we read each and every day. That's why we should try to perfect them. Once we perfect them, then we come close to God. We begin to understand what His universe is all about. You know, because we become a part of everything that we see, everything that's around us. Once we start understanding our attributes and getting close to our attributes and keep remembering God, because He's the one God. This
is a very key point, what he said. Once we begin to understand God, right? Once we understand the being, and then understand the being wants us to reflect His qualities. This is the image. Now, if I take a mirror and put it in front of you, and you look and see in that mirror, what do you see? You see your reflection. But that reflection is only coming from the mirror. It is not the mirror. Right? It is not the mirror itself. It's just a reflection coming from the mirror. The mirror's quality and whatever is looking into it are two different things. But the mirror is able to show you clearly what it is that's reflected. This is the difference between God and God's image. The image doesn't mean that is God. The image doesn't mean that this reflection even has the quality of God. It just has the capacity to show you God. But it's not God. It's just a reflection of God. And this is the mistake people made when they heard this idea that we are in the image of God and some were the Son of God. You're a son of God? That means you must be like God. Because sons are like their fathers. Islam never said that we are his sons. It says we are his servants. Islam says we are God's servants, not his sons or daughters. Servant here means we can do the will of God, and if we do the will enough, we begin to identify with that person who is our master. We identify so much, you almost think that that servant is a reflection of the master's will and ways and everything, and has no identity of its own. This is the image of God. The Arabic word abd means something that is like soft clay, and you can put an impress on it. So we are created from what, according to the Quran and other scriptures? Out of clay. It means we are pliable. We can take on something outside as our image. It can form and mold us to look like it. And this is what we are supposed to be. From birth, looking like that Creator who gave us life. Reflecting more and more of that Creator's qualities as we move forward in life and understand Him more. If we don't understand Him, we can't reflect Him. This is a struggle now. So the more we understand the being, the more we can say, let me try to reflect this quality now. Let me be a mirror. The Buddhists say, be still. The Buddhists say, be calm. The Buddhists say, be at peace. Then you become one with all of life. It means you become still like water. Last year I was in a place called Croatia. We went out to this huge castle. And behind the castle was a beautiful pond. It was winter, it was cool, crisp air. And this pond was so calm and crystal clear. You look down, you can see a perfect image of all the skies and trees around it. And I turned to the person who was with me, who wasn't a Muslim. I said, this is what God talks about in Scripture. He wants our nature to be like that pond, completely still and clean and pure. And then it perfectly reflects whatever is the image outside. But if it's moving, then you can't see a clear reflection. You can't make out the form of the thing it's trying to reflect. And so the spirit has to be calm. In Arabic, call that nafsi mutma'inna, the soul that is now at rest. The prophetic state. When you say that person is a prophet, is like the son of God, a servant of God. God and that person is one. And all these things, how do they get there? It's when this soul of ours becomes real calm and begins to perfectly reflect the attributes of God and become His image.
Question.
I know, I got a little passionate there, I'm sorry. I'll pull back. Your turn.
I had a question, really, because you used a biblical verse to explain what you just explained. But then when we say, in Islam, we say that Allah has created us with men and jinn, but to worship Him. Is this the same concept?
Yes, exactly. The Arabic, does anyone know the Arabic of that expression? God says in the Quran why He created man and the jinn. Anyone know the Arabic? Illa liya'budun. Illa liya'budun. The Arabic word is ya'budun. And the root is abada. The same as abd. So we have been created, what God is saying, to be His servants. That's one way of translating. What is the real meaning, as I'm trying to get at? We have been created to do what? To reflect His attributes. To be soft. To take on the impress of His attributes. To be a soul that's pure and still. So we perfectly reflect. To get the satanic elements away from us and out of us, so our waters don't get so turbulent and begin to slowly calm down. Then we begin to see in that person, whoever that person is, divine qualities. And then God says, because this is my perfect servant. And anything short of that, Shaitan is still mixing with that person. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You can't hear it from that person. Even though they're saying God, you say, well, I can't see God here. You know, I don't hear God here. I hear there's some noise, some static on the line here. Voice is not coming clear. Your picture's kind of cloudy here. Your connection's a little bit off. All these things start happening when we don't get ourselves right. But God has never changed. God is eternal. God is infinite. His attributes never cease. But the manifestation of these things in our lives are change. Remember the story we started out with last week, the people of Bhopal. How did the people of Bhopal see God? How did they see God? Remember the story? The people of Bhopal, according to the teacher who saw the dream, they said he saw a man who was blind, who was covered in pus and flies. You know, he was all sickly and he was repulsed. He said, "Who on earth are you?" He said, "I'm God." The man said, "Wait a minute. God is beauty. God is beneficent. How can you be God?" He says, "It's true what you say. It's the people of Bhopal who think this is what I am. And so for the people of Bhopal, this is their God. When their being was sick, was diseased in certain ways, that's how they perceived or failed to perceive the true God." So really what we're saying to people out here, they say, "Oh, I don't believe in God. I don't see God. I don't hear God." No, they're fine. I'll tell you why. You have to learn to calm your senses, open your eyes, remove the things from your ears, and you'll begin to see and hear and experience that being that's always there. And until that happens, you cannot see that being any more than a blind man can see the sun. A deaf man can hear the music. A man without taste buds can taste the sweetness of something you give them. So we want to cure you of these things, then you'll see the reality that I'm seeing. Until then, you're going to tell me, "Hey, God can't see me." If God can't see me, then I'm going to commit error and sin and transgression and do everything I want because God don't see me. God can't hear me, so I'll lie, I'll cheat, I'll steal, I'll do all these things through my tongue because God can't hear what I'm saying. And this is the difference between a living God and a God that in our minds we shut down. So back to Kul Hu Wallahu Ahad. Every single night, every night now before we go to bed was the exercise we said we would do. And this was a lifelong exercise of Prophet Muhammad. And the more he began to think at night, reflect on the first two calls we said. The first was Ahad, God is one. And then the second one was As-Samad, God is independent or eternal. The more he thought about that, the more things would enter his heart. And so when he spoke about them to the people, the more he could express. The less you think about these things, the less they're going to enter the heart, and the less we will express. And when we do express it, it comes out flat. There's no fantasy. You're not a fanatic. You're just talking. But people will know when you speak about something you love or not. When you're a Sixer fan or an Eagle fan or whatever fans out there, when you're out there passionate, say, "Go Eagles!" You know, they feel that. You say, "Yeah, go Eagles." They win or lose, go Eagles, you know. Get this man off the field. Get him out of here. He's not part of us. So we want to speak, really, from this position in the heart. Right in the heart. Then we'll do tabligh. Before that, no. We're just talking.
Next question. Assalamu alaikum. My question is, most of the people that you're going to, well, I'll say, most of the people I come in contact with, either they claim to be Christians or they don't go to church at all. But the ones that claim to be Christians, and they're more authoritative in what they believe. But then they'll say, we read the Bible, and I said, well, okay, I'm not real authority on the different Bibles, but basically I know something about the King James Version. So when it comes down to the King James Version, you know there's a lot of contradictions. I know there's a lot of contradictions, and I don't know that maybe they know it too, because it wasn't like I didn't know it before I came to Islam. But after coming to Islam, I sort of found out how you distinguish one from the other. But then when you think in terms of King James Version, the dictionary said version is a man's opinion, or an opinion. Now, how do you express this or explain that to these people that want to be fanatics and they know for a fact there's contradictions. How do you get that across?
I think you just did it quite well.
Alhamdulillah.
You know, version is a version, and you know, you're going to keep taking versions. Really, what I would like us to focus more on is not so much these different sectarian beliefs that come up within religions and between religions, but the central point of Surah Al-Ikhlas. Something everyone in religion has been taught and is grounding their faith in. Bring them back to the oneness. Bring them back to it. Even in this argument. You say King James Version and all these other so many versions of it. Well, what was the message of Christ? Let's just focus on that for now. And leave the interpretations and translations alone. Let's focus on the message of Christ. And as far as you read and I read, he said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, one God." Now let's start from there and go forward, because this, he said, is the first and foremost commandment, the most important principle of religion. And in our book, the same foremost commandment is there. This surah, according to the Prophet of Islam, was as if you read 1/3 of the Quran. That's how weighty it is. The subject matter here is so important. When we sit in bed at night and think about it, we're reading 1/3 of the Quran because the essence is all there. So, if we believe God is one, and Christ said that God is one, and Moses said his God is one, and Buddha said his God is one, and Krishna and all these prophets say God is one, then it's for us to link to one God. That's our starting point. Theology aside. Right? Does it make any sense? We are United States of America.
Assalamu alaikum. I think the whole essence of what we hope to achieve is not to get in a push-pull situation in regards to doctrine, because we can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think the most important thing is to find a commonality, a common ground. And this oneness that goes through all of the books is a foundation to start at. Let's go from what we have in common. Let's not focus on all the differences. Let's focus on what we have in common, and let's build from there. Let's not break down one side to the other. Let's build. That's what I say.
Assalamu alaikum. You know, excuse me, that sounds sort of easy, and it may be for some. But when you meet a person and he says that, just like a guy told me downtown, matter of fact, he was standing on a soapbox, and he said, Jesus is God. This is what he said. I'm standing there, I'm listening, because he had a group of people. He got a microphone. He got a big bullhorn, in other words, and this is what he's blotting out. So, and I said, well, can I ask you a question? He said, sure you can. I said, you made a statement and said, Jesus is God, and we know for a fact that's not true. You know what came out of his mouth? You're not smart enough to know. That was his answer. So like I told him, I may not be as smart as you in a lot of ways, but I'm smart enough to know if you pray to yourself, you are schizophrenic or something is wrong with you, and if somebody's walking down the street and was doing that, you would call them, you would say they got a problem, they got insane or something. And this is what Jesus did. Jesus said, he said, I pray to the Father, and you can too. So therefore, you right off the bat, you got a confrontation. You can't just say, well, no, I'm just hear what I'm saying. You know, I heard what you said. This is the problem with most people. When they believe something, you gotta either come up with a way to defend what you're saying or break down what they're saying. And if you try to say, well, okay, you know, you can say Jesus is God, but let's look at this.
Let's go back to Surah Al-Ikhlas.
Okay.
Let's go back to Surah Al-Ikhlas.
You got it right.
let's go back to Surah Ikhlas, the next verses that come. The next verses that are coming are going to provide more ideas and concepts to share with someone about the oneness of God. And continue to focus on that. The next verses are Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Neither does he produce or give birth to something, nor was he the one who was given life or given birth by some other being. And when you analyze this next portion of Surah Ikhlas, much of what is going to be said by a person who's Christian that says we believe in one of God, but Jesus was God. So you just say to that person, whether they're going to accept it or not, fanatic or not, because we all have our position, you just express and explain yourself clearly that my understanding of God's oneness is this is a being that was eternal. Eternity means there's no beginning. Eternity means there's no end. So according to your definition of what God is, and this is from your Bible, I'm not quoting Quran, I'm quoting Bible, how can any being other than the one true God fit in this attribute? How is it possible? In the Bible, I can give you the quote later if you want, St. Paul himself says, no one speaking by the Spirit of God can say Jesus died. These are his words. Because the Jewish concept was exactly the same as our concept. God is eternal from everlasting to everlasting. He gives life. Nothing gave him life. He never ceases, not for a moment. And so St. Paul, who created this whole new concept of Christianity we are now seeing in the world, even initially he couldn't say that Christ died. God doesn't die. How could God have died if he's eternal? How could God have been given birth by Mary if he's eternal? Just analyze what anyone who says, no, I believe in this Christ. Okay, explain this to me. Prior to this God coming to the world through Mary, how is oneness not challenged in his birth? How then, on the point of cross, when he is crucified and he dies and goes to hell for a certain period of time, how is his oneness not challenged in his death? And all along the way, how is his uniqueness not challenged? Because you can see everything in Christ that's in us. And I said the difference between the image and the creator is like a mirror and a person. I can have a child who looks like me. That makes me a father. But to be a creator means that thing will not be like me. I just made it. You go home right now and you build a house in the back of your yard. Say, I built it. You're the creator of that house. It looks nothing like you. But you gave this structure, its form, its function, everything. It's the same with everything in this world. God brought it into being, including us. We do not participate in God's being. We come from God's being, but we are not God's being. So the very next verse, Lam yalid wa lam yulad, disproves anything can be like God. And this is one of the first commandments given to Moses. Do not make anything like God of the heaven, beneath your feet, the waters, no graven image, nothing like God. So now you say to your Christian friend again, this is a commandment you accept, you believe in. How is it that every Sunday you go to Catholic churches or many churches, you see all these images of things, you say, that's God. And we have to worship this being who died on this cross to save our souls. How could anything looking human be divine? Surah Ikhlas comes to give us thoughts on how to express to people proper tawheed. Now, whether they accept it or reject it, it's up to them. There will be many who will say, "You're crazy. No, this is my truth. There have always been, always will be. This is not my issue. I can't make a blind man see. You just can't. You can pray that a blind man gets eyes to see. But if he chooses to remain blind, then he's going to go on his blindness. That's it. That's his choice. So we are not to get caught up in the issue of fanatics. There were fanatics in the time of Prophet of Islam who wanted to kill him, stone him, throw trash on him, destroy his community, do everything against him. That didn't stop him from giving his message. With love, with affection, with clear articulation, and with passion. It didn't stop him. So this will not stop us, but we should be clear, and this is the point. Okay, so going forward again, the exercise is what? Every night, what are we going to do? Every night, before we go to bed. This is every night. If you really want to pull this into the heart, every night, as far as possible, read Surah Al-Ikhlas and think about the words and the concepts, and then try to express it from your heart, thinking about it. Number 2, the chapters that come after that, they are also to be recited before we go to bed. So the last 3 chapters, this was the style of Prophet of Islam. He recited these chapters. The last 2, again, talk about seeking refuge. Why? Why the last 2 chapters of Quran are asking us to seek refuge? My friend Yahya is not here today, missionary from Dayton. Otherwise, he would have given half this presentation today, but I see he's not on yet. So I'm over talking, I don't understand that. So I'm asking you this final question. Why is it the last 2 chapters of Quran are asking us to turn to God once again, knowing that He is the one, He is eternal, He is the one that we all have to go to for help. Nothing like Him, and all turn toward Him and need Him. So why does He say to us now, seek my refuge? From what?
Just like in a speech or in an essay, we summarize at the end, we make a conclusion. Okay, and in a nutshell, we express our whole, what was the actual intention or implication or what we actually wanted through that whole story. So that's what Allah Ta'ala concludes in last 2-3 chapters. Okay, the basic, back to basic, main focal point should be this.
Yes, main focal point. Anything else? What are we seeking refuge from? Let them get a...
Satan.
Satan? Why? What does that mean? We seek refuge from Satan when we began the Holy Quran. The first thing we said, A'udhu Billah, I seek refuge with Allah from Satan. So why in the end?
So we can go closer to Allah.
Okay, anybody else?
I think that when you reflect over the verses itself, in terms of what it's saying in English, that there are certain points of the day that you're, at the dawn, there's, then there's this evil that's been created, and I need protection from it, and I need it through the night as it overspreads, and I need it that blows onto the knots to undo them, and I certainly need it against the envier when he envies. And so this is the verse. Surah Al-Falaq. I said that when you reflect over the verse itself, there's a point in time where we're entering into the day, and we're seeking protection from this Creator that created the dawn, that created the evil. So then there's the night when it overspreads, and there's evil. And then there's the evil that blows onto knots, to undo them, relationships. And then there's the evil of the envier. And then there's this subtle side in Surah Nas where it's the whispering, and that you're seeking protection from all these different elements. Some you just don't see, so some you do, but that's what my interpretation is.
That's a good translation. What do these words mean? Still haven't found my answer. What are we seeking refuge from? What is the greatest threat to the Ummah, the Muslim community, that the Prophet warned about and many prophets warned about?
From going astray.
Going astray. Okay. What does it mean by going astray? Who are the ones that are going astray?
I would say jihad al-nas, that is the jihad of self, comes first. You have to first conquer yourself, the evil propensities within yourself before you can go to others and try to conquer them. Try to preach to them and talk to them about Islam.
It's okay, but the young man had a good point. I want some more comment on it. He said from going astray. In Surah Al-Fatiha, and these two comments are now linked. The first comment was that these last surahs are a final concluding summary of what we started with. We started with what? Al-Fatiha. And the last part of Al-Fatiha warns us that, oh God, let me not be like those who have incurred your displeasure or those who have gone astray. And we talked about this, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, that who are these people that God is warning us not to be like? One who incurred displeasure, and second who went astray. Who are they? Who are these people?
The Jews
and the Christians. And the Prophet warned that they will reach ascendancy. They're going to dominate the world. They're going to go forth, and every corner will be under their sway, influence. Their material might will be unchallenged. Their political might will be unchallenged. Their theological concepts will be unchallenged. And the Muslims will be at the weakest point then. And this is the time, he says, is the coming of the Antichrist Dajjal. Because the theology will not be the message of oneness. It will be this Trinity. It will not be the message of salvation through God. It will be salvation through blood of Jesus Christ. All these things are going on. So he warns at that time, you must now seek refuge because there's no greater threat to the challenge of oneness of God than these people, what they'll push in front of you. And their social system, their political system, everything. This is the time, therefore, as we reflect on these verses, to the challenge of oneness of God, then these people, our beloved fourth caliph gave a beautiful, and their social system, and their political system, everything. I will try to find it. This is the time, therefore, and get copies for all of us to reflect on these verses, because what he's going to explain is why we must recite Surah Al-Ikhlas. This is the day when the supremacy of the Christian nations are going to challenge that God is not truly one. And they will be at might. Number 2, those who will seek to break the ties and create division. They also will be in league with these Christian nations. And many of them will be Jewish communities. And they will be a challenge to the Muslims. He said his leg fell. So you have to be careful of those alliances that come between Christian nations and Jewish nations. That will be a threat to Islam and threat to true unity and harmony in the world. And lastly, the materialism will be so rampant. All of these, I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind. We think these holy people, priests, sheikhs, maulanas, rabbis, whatever, these are gods. Made them gods. God is saying, I'm God. Seek refuge in me. Otherwise, you'll be under the influence. Malik in Nas, all the political forces. We run behind every powerful political force thinking, again, they can save us. I mentioned last week, if we think our nation can save us, if God wants to bring a punishment on us, we're fooling ourselves. That's what Noah's son did. Instead of going to As-Samad, the one who can save us, he ran to the mountain. And his fate was the same as all those who didn't jump on the boat with Noah. He got drowned and destroyed. This is Malik in Nas. Whenever our heart goes toward the society, thinking they can do something for us, we have forgotten about God as one. And lastly, Ilahin Nas. Those who we make the gods, the false gods. the theologies that's supposed to save us. All these things will be rampant everywhere you turn. Everywhere. Or no God, no religion, which is now becoming a new religion. They said nowadays the fastest growing religion is no religion. It's the fastest growing religion in America, in the West. No religion. We don't need it no more. This is going to be the greatest challenge. So God is saying, seek refuge in me. Only I can protect you from being under the sway of all these things. They'll be so powerful that it says in one tradition, you wake up in the morning and your women will be believers, and at night you go to bed, they're all disbelievers. What does it mean? The society will influence them, and Azur gave football this last Friday. That the women, instead of walking around and covering themselves, now they want to uncover everything, thinking I want to be like the rest. Because this is free, it's open, this is good, this is society, this is civil. And ripping all their clothes off and showing all their beauty because society says this is the way a woman should be. This is our society. These are our values. Leave your old, antiquated, backward Islamic values in 4th, 6th century Arabia. Don't bring them into our country here. And the influence is so powerful. Our girls go to school in the morning with dupatta on their heads and come back from school at night. You know where they are? In their back pockets. But not just the girls. The boys go on with nice kufis on their head, go to work in the morning with this on, go, alhamdulillah, I'm going up to prayer now. I said my prayer, I'm going to work. This thing goes off, shave off the beard to get that raise. All of this influence of society is going to be so pernicious, so pervasive, that unless we seek God's refuge in these last chapters, going to bed at night so that we get up in the morning is the first thing in our heart and our mind, and going through the day with it constantly. You can't escape the trap of the job. It's just not possible. And if we think we can, just look around you, my friends. Just look around you. And look within us. It's all there. It is the greatest challenge. So alhamdulillah, by breaking that challenge, it's that shaitan who wanted us to sit down tonight and do whatever everyone else was doing, we came here. That's the first step. Tonight, another step we can take before we go to bed, just lay back, relax, calm it down, and reflect on these last few chapters. And then go to sleep. Don't talk to nobody, don't do nothing. Just let those thoughts sit in our head all night long. And wake up with this first thought in our mind. God, you are one. I'm ready to worship you again. That's it. Someone had their hand up.
I wanted to say like the monks and other various groups, they had their own way of worshiping. I mean, they have their own points in terms of, I think they have some good points and some bad points in terms of worship of God. You know, they believe that they should stay, they should meditate, they should do various things to enhance their belief in God. So I think there are some good points in that, but there's also some negative things, you know, with the way they worship and so on.
Yes.
Yeah, just referring to all the points you mentioned individually, and as you were asking that, you know, you were looking for appropriate answers, so I thought maybe the verse min sharri ma khalaq, I think, defines pretty clearly. You know, you said the biggest threat. So I think everything He has created, there's also good and the bad also. So
the evil of what He's created. The whisperings, waswas, of the sneaking whisperer. It shows these influences are very subtle. You don't see them. There's something called this television. They created it, and the psychology was called subliminal. Subliminal. It's below the conscience. All the things that influences. Why do I want to eat certain things, or wear certain things, or pursue certain things? This is fun in the sun if I do this and that. Why is it? A system that knew human psychology and human nature and got us programmed to go certain ways. All of that is below the surface. It's never open because openly we reject it. This is waswas. Nafathat, who blows in the knots. Prophet Messiah said, this is the society that has opened intercourse between men and women. And as a result, these certain women who don't have your values, they'll come and break the knot, the ties of marriage that are there in certain families. They'll break them up. So again, you see it, that the more you live in a society like this, those families are breaking down. And it goes on and on. So I can't give all the commentary of this, but the key words is seeking refuge from the evil ultimate created, from the sneaking whispering, from those who blow in the knots. All these things are mentioned in the verse and many others. We have to constantly reflect upon it so that now we're ready to fight. My friend here, Yahya, when I speak to him, he always talks about, we don't realize it's a battle out there. The moment we leave this security of God's house, even inside of it, because sometimes you're sitting here and next thing you know, boom, the phone goes off. And it's one of those messages and you're over here getting distracted and doing kind of stuff here and looking up every now and then doing this, and you miss half what you're trying to say to somebody. Even here, you're not free from all the stuff that's grabbing you, but once we cross outside that door, my God, we're in the full mix. Shaitan is waiting right there saying, I know I can't get you fully inside here, but once you cross the door, now you're mine again. Come on, let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's play. Let's make some money. Whatever it is. Right? So it's these things that will stop us to make us reflect and realize, Shaitan, I got my sword out today. I got my armor on and body armor, full gear. It's not going to be so easy. I'm not going to give up that quick and lay over for you. I submit to God. And God is going to help me, inshallah. These last 3 chapters are critical. God is one. Heart and soul. Be a fanatic. Let's be fanatics. Let Americans say these people are crazy. They're fanatics. They're so passionate about their religion, not like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but the positive way. We're passionate about our love for God and doing the things He wants us to do, and we do it. And we do it. As simple as coming to God's house at least once a day. That's a crazy person. If you go twice a day, you're becoming insane. 3 times, you're off the charts. 5 times, they're like, get the paddy wagons, take this man away. Get him out of here. But that's what a passionate person does. 5 times a day, they're ready to do all the things that Shaitan wants to at us. So I'm glad we began the dialogue today. In the beginning, I was probing you, and you started the ideas that were in your mind, expressing them. Now, every time we come back, we should be able to express it even clearer, with a deeper conviction. And then you know that when I meet somebody and ask me about things they're going to ask me, it'll come out natural. It'll flow out of us. And no one will have to force, you don't really believe it. I say, no, I don't believe what you believe, but you're a believer, I can tell that. I don't accept what you believe, but I can tell this man's, he's committed. That's all we can hope for. And then beg God for His mercy to guide the next person. But if we're not there, beg God to guide us first. Oh God, make me a true lover of your being and your oneness and your greatness and your eternal qualities, that nothing comes in front of my eyes but you. And then I'm saved. So we pray now that, oh God, help us, all of us, to reach that level. Inshallah ta'ala. One step I said is reflect as far as possible. Some nights you may not do it, whatever reasons, that's fine. But as far as possible, reflect every night on Surah Ikhlas and the last 2 surahs of Quran. Alright? We're going to have a final closing thoughts, any prayers, and then we're going to...
Can I?
Yes.
I'm
Final
sorry.
thoughts.
I just wanted to offer the brother a verse that I just read today in the Quran. They were talking about earlier about the Christian God that was talking to him. It says, "U'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim." It's from Surah Mu'minun. It's verse 92. Allah has not taken to Himself any son, nor is there any other God along with Him. In that case, each God would have taken away what he created. Some of them surely would have sought domination over others. Glorified be Allah for far above what they allege. And there's a pretty nice commentary that goes along with that.
Chapter 23,
verse 92.
Verse 92.
Correct.
Well, this is talking commentary of Surah Ikhlas, that if there were other gods out there, then you would see this battle start between two gods, as we see on Earth when there's two people who are ruling the planet. Russia and America,
spouse, a child,
China
friend.
and North Korea, wherever
All
it is.
the wealth.
They put that glitters in front of our eyes, diamonds and pearls and rubies.
Well, you, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
One thing that came to mind when you was talking about blowing into knots, I thought about the system of today, where everything has been taken out of the household, such as chastising the kids. Can't do that anymore.
I appreciate the point.
And that creates a problem.
Because a lot of times
that creates a problem in the household. That creates a problem in the system. Because the problem being created in the system, then they build what they call prisons to take care of the problem in the household. This is the only thing now that is happening that is destroying this whole system in the system. Then they build which was coming around. All of us know that we take care of the problem in the household. This is the only thing now that is happening. We know that is destroying this whole system. We done what the neighbors was coming around. All of us just like everybody in their blocks knew each other. Everybody in that area knew each other. We know, and they chastised the kids and kept the kids on the right path. Now the kids are gone. They're flying. That knot that you just spoke about, that's what they done did. They done messed this whole system up. Now they bringing drugs into the system. Everything is to destroy, not to build. And now they're talking about we have to create something to put more people in prison. What kind of system is this? This is what they have said. This is what I've been seeing. This is what I've been reading on the Bible, on the television, on the newspapers and all of that. I read newspaper every day. You can find that in a little line like that. And this is what this system is becoming. And what we are the ones to bring this system back to the love of God. We are those peoples who follow the example of the promised Messiah in the second advent of Christ. We are those people who clarify everything that is happening in this system today to bring it back to the true love of God. This is why the talk that the fourth Khalifa gave one time, he said, when you tabligh, never talk about how Jesus died on the cross. He said, talk about the love of God. He said, you put the love of God in a man's heart, and he'll listen to everything you have to say. We are the people who bring about this thing. We have to remember that. Let's not be a part of this society. Let us bring the society to be a part of us. And we can do that. Because all we have to do is show that love and that devotion, what we're talking about here today. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Jazakallah. I think we're going to have to break it up because we're at the midnight hour. If now anyone has any requests for prayers, we're going to raise our hands and we're going to pray and come to conclusion today. Request for prayer? Ramadan Ali Mahmoud. Remember him in your prayers. He's one of our elders. Been around a long time. He and I go way back to before I devoted my life. And this man was a person who was with me in Qadian the first year I went there. And was a source of inspiration for me to devote my life. So I told him that a little while ago, some years ago. He didn't even remember it, but this is the truth. Never judge a book by its cover. He seems to be a very simple man with his own complications, but the heart of a soul, Allah knows. Pray for him as a person with a heart that loves God, not a man with troubles in life. Don't see that man. See what is beyond all those troubles and pray for his heart and soul. Allah have mercy on him.
Requesting prayer for my father. He's having problems with his gout. He's taking medication on that. He was able to
Apple cider vinegar, organic.
Vinegar?
Apple cider vinegar, organic.
Okay.
It's from experience of many people.
Start drinking it.
He has to drink it. Don't drink it straight. They gave it straight to Jesus. He almost gave it to the ghost. All right? It's very strong, so you have to put it in water. I'll explain afterwards. But this has been very helpful for many people.
And also request you pray for him.
Let's pray for his father.
Request your prayers for my family and myself.
Brother Ghulam requested prayers for all of us, for who is his family, and for himself as well, and his physical family. But Oz is going to California tomorrow. He's going to have California dreams here. So I hope while he's dreaming California, he's also dreaming Ikhlas. Huh? Don't forget Ikhlas while you're over there.
Not just me, for them traveling over California.
The National Khudam Ijtima is coming up this weekend, and they're having some extra days there at Yosemite National Park in California. So do pray that it all goes well for them. It's not a place that is not free of some dangers. I went with a group my first year as missionary in California, and I almost lost one by drowning. One got lost in the woods. It was a very unique experience because people from the city don't know what to do when they get in the woods. Okay. Long story short, we'll definitely be praying for all of you, inshallah. Come back safe. Brother Yusuf, how are you? Good to see you. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Brother Salahuddin, good to see you. Good to see your face. How's the family? Alhamdulillah.
Prayers for my own, so I have housing difficulties.
Housing? My final request is prayers are blessed with purity. Prayers are blessed with purity. And for that, your take-home assignment, we've already started with some people, but all of us do this as well. Read chapters 73 and 74 of Quran with a commentary. Please read these two chapters. They are the next two verses of Quran that were revealed to Prophet Muhammad. We know the first one, the angel grabbed, we know this. What was revealed next? What were the messages that came next? That's what we should know. What did God next ask him to do to become a preacher to mankind? So read chapters 73 and 74. They're short chapters, but just read them with the commentary and see the message. And one clear thing is purity. We have to become pure. We'll discuss this next time, inshallah. Okay? Join me now in collective prayer. Ameen. Ameen.
Oh,